All right, welcome grade 7, 8. We're working on set 7, working backwards in problem solving. We worked on this a couple of days, but these questions have really broken us. And I have to admit, when I got to this number 2, it said Maria had 240 colored tiles in 2 bags. It got me just a little bit. So I'm going to show you some quick examples that should hopefully help you out with this. I'm not going to do these questions. I'm going to do questions that are a heck of a lot like these questions. So right now I'm facing the class. I got whiteboards. So all you whiteboard kids, I want you to have these numbers as you go. So we're going to take a shift. I'm going to work on the whiteboard over here. And we're going to change this question. So look at number 2. Now if you're following this video at home, you want to have set number 7 on your desk so that you can look at this. Because I'm going to go over 2, 3, and 4 with questions just like them. So when I'm done doing this fake question number 2, you can pause the video, go to your number 2, and see how it applies, and then get that done. So let's take a look at fake number 2. So I'm going to change this. Instead of 30 or 240 marbles, but we're going to say that 2 people have $30. So we're going to say that you've got Jim and Andy. Jim and Andy have $30 between them. Now in this, it said that at one point, they've got X and Y. At one point, Jim gave 3/5 of his money to Andy. And at one point, Andy gave half of his money back to Jim. But when they were done, it said that Jim has 2 times as much money as Andy. So first we're going to start. They had, how much money did they have in total between the 2 of them? Do you remember?
30.
They had $30. So there's $30 between 2 people. So if I've got $30 between 2 people, that's $30 between 2 people. One person has twice as much. Can anyone guess how much each of them has? Yes. 20 and 10. Okay, so if I think this is my money, if someone has twice as much as someone else, that's like if there's 2 parts and 1 part. So I got Jim has twice as much as Andy. So Jim must have $20 at the end, and Andy must have $10. Pardon me. Andy must have $10. So Jim has 20 and Andy has 10 in the end. Now, when I first started doing this question with the tiles and the bags, I suddenly remembered, oh, this is work backwards. And that clued me in. I figured out, oh, okay, I got to figure out how many tiles are in the bags at the end, and then work backwards. So we're doing that with our $30. I know that in the end, Jim had $20 and Andy had 10. Now, I've already seen some students in class go, okay, cool, and then they go on to the next question. But before you finish a question, the last thing you should always do, look at the last sentence and ask yourself, did I answer the question? The question was, how many were in each bag at the beginning? Or how much money did they have at the beginning? We haven't answered that question yet. So we're going to take a look. It said that Andy had given half of his money to Jim. Well, if he gave half of his money to Jim and had $10 left over, well, that means he must have had twice that number. He had $20, because if he had $20 and gave half to Jim, well, then he'd have $10 left. So if he had 20, then Jim had 10, because they had 30 total. But then it said, before this part, Jim had given 3/5 of his money to Andy. Well, let's get 3/5. So right now, we don't know how much money he had before. We're trying to figure this out. But we know that after he gave 3/5 to Andy, he had $10. So he gave 3/5 of his money to Andy. And when he was done with that, he had $10 left. Now, if you look at that, I split a mystery amount into 5 pieces, because we know he gave 3/5 away. We know he had 2/5 left. He had $10. How much is 1/5 of his money? Call it out. Yeah, it's $5. So hold on. We didn't know how much he had. How many of you now know how much money he had before? Excellent. Okay, so he had $10 after giving 3/5 away. So before he gave 3/5 away, he must have had $25. Well, how much does Andy have if they had $25? I want to see it on your show me boards at this point. Here we go in 5, 4. How much did Andy have at the beginning right now? Bingo. 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 Nicely done. Nicely done. So we know they had 30. So the answer to my question, before they exchanged any money, Jim had $25 and Andy had 5. This is exactly like number 2. You just have to work backwards. I changed the numbers. So all I had to do was find a number that was equivalent by 5 and 2. And I was able to make a new number that worked. All right, take a look over at number 3. If you're following this video along, I would say pause the video right now. Go attack number 2 with a fervor. If you don't know, come sign up for some extra help, or come see me, or go talk to someone that you know is super smart and likes to talk about math. Let's take a look at a mock number 3. Now I know on the video you can't quite see number 3, but you should have it in front of you right now. If you don't have it and Mr. Ewart isn't around, it's probably available on Edsby or on EduBlogs or one of those plethora of electronic ways that he makes your life just an awesome place to be. When it says Tony and Perry pick strawberries on a farm, I'm going to make this real simple. We got 2 guys, okay? This guy's got this many of something and this guy's got this many of something. And we know at one point one guy gave 1/5 of his stuff to him. And at one point one guy gave 1/3 of his stuff to him. This is a lot like the last one. So if you want, you can pause and you can read number 3. But I'm going to give you a fake number 3. Eggs. I got, do number X. Let's do A and B. Let's go back to Andy. We've got Andy and Bobby. And Andy and Bobby, they're egg farmers. And they've got all these eggs. Now, at one point, Andy gives 1/3 of his eggs to Bobby. Well, we don't know how many he had, and we don't know how many he has. But we know that Andy gave 1/3 of his eggs to Bobby. So 1 out of every 3 of his eggs went over to him. And then at one point, let's see, Bobby gave 25% of his eggs to Andy. And then later on, Andy gave 1/5 of his eggs to Bobby. I don't know why. Now we know that at the very end, there was 60 strawberries in, or not strawberries, 60 eggs in total. Now hold on, I gotta pause to figure out a number. So in the end, after Andy and Bobby have exchanged all their eggs, Andy has 16 eggs and Bobby has 28. Now it is set 7 work backwards, so we're gonna work backwards. So those of you who had boards before, you're probably sitting beside someone else with a board. Exchange with them, let them see it. So I want to see if we can predict the next set of numbers. Now we know that Andy gave 1/5 of his eggs away and ended up with 16. So let's draw a little picture. And now I'm going to draw Joseph's eyes to the board because I don't think he's paying attention. So I'm going to draw him up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've now taken his mystery amount. We don't know how much he had. It's a mystery amount, but we know that he gave 1/5 away. We know that he gave 1/5 of his eggs away. And once he gave away 1/5, he had 16 eggs left. Show me on your show me board, how much is that? Or show me with your fingers perhaps. How much is each block worth if 16 of them is 4? I see. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. You're right. Each block is 4. So if he gave 1/5 away, that means he gave away how many eggs? Call it out. 4 eggs. So he must have had 4 more before he made that exchange. Well, let's do our math. We see that they have a total of 44 eggs, so there must have been 24 on the other side at that time. Now we need to keep working backwards. We know that Bobby has 24 eggs, but only after he gave away a quarter of them. So we don't know how much he had here. But if he gave away 25% of them, and we don't know how much he had, but we know that after he gave away a quarter of them, he had 24. How many of you right now know exactly what each of those would be worth? Yes, okay. So each one of these, each quarter is worth 8. So how many did he give away? Call it out. 8. So he must have had 8 more than he had here. So he had 32 at this time. Well, since there's 44 eggs in total, we know that at this point Andy had 12 and Bobby had 32. Now the first exchange was Andy had given a third of his eggs away and had 12 left. Well, let's see. If he gave away a third of his eggs and had 12 left, how many eggs did he give away? 4. What do you think about this? 12 is in 2 parts. How much is each part worth? So how many eggs did he give away? He gave 6 eggs away. He must have had 6 more eggs at that point. Well, if he had 18, and we know it's 14 before, so he had 6 more, he had 6 less. Did I do my math right? Is that correct? Is that 44? I get it. So he had 18 eggs. He gave a third of them away and resulted in 12. But then Bobby gave away a quarter of his 32 eggs to him, and they ended up with 20 and 24. But then Andy gave away 1/5 of his 20 eggs and resulted in 16, and Bobby with 28. So the question asks, before you leave, any question says, how many strawberries did each of them have to begin with? Or in mine, how many eggs did they have to begin with? Andy had 18 eggs to begin with, and Bobby had 16. Now this is where, if you're watching the video, pause it. Oh, did I have this one wrong?
You have 18 and 26, but you said 18 and 16.
Did I say 16? Thank you, Jerry. It should say 26. Thank you for that. Because 18 and 26 is the 44 eggs in total. So pause your video. Go attack number 3. Once again, ask for help if you're still not getting it. But always, you're working backwards, then work it forwards to see if it works. Let's see if we have time in our video for our final question. Yes, we barely have time. So we're going to do this real darn fast. Last question. There is 120 stickers. We're going to do Andy and Bobby again. Now they're trading stickers. Now, they have 120 stickers. When they were done, they have 99 stickers in Andy's book and 21 stickers in Bobby's book. Well, we know that at one point, Andy gave away 3/4 of his stickers to Bobby. And we know that Bobby, at one point, gave 80% of his stickers to Andy. And we know that in the end, Andy had 99 and Bobby had 21. So let's take a look at this. We know that he gave away 80% of his stickers to Andy. 80% is 4/5 of his stickers. So if this was 1/5 of his stickers, then he must have had 105 at that point. Because if this is 1/5 of his original number, 5 times this is 105. And if we know that there's 120 stickers in all, Andy must have only had 15 at that point. But we know that he had 15 after giving away 3/4 of his stickers. Well, if I split his stickers in 3/4, and I know that 1/4 left is 15, well then I know that when he started, he must have had 60 stickers. Well wait, if they had 120, then he had 60, and he had 60. So how many stickers to begin with? They each had 60. Pause your video, go after the final question.